Hi, I'm Derek Mooney and this is Read Right Now. This week I thought I'd get some fresh air, so I've come to Marley Park in Rathfarnham on Dublin's south side. It's a great time of year to see the park, and there's a lot more to explore in here than you'd ever expect to find. Most of us reach a crossroads at some stage in our lives when we get that extra push to do something we've always wanted to do. And that's the case for this week's learner, Maria Ryan. She turned her life in a completely new direction, and since then, she's done a lot more than she ever thought she could.
I didn't ever think I'd be able to help children with their reading and writing. I couldn't help my older grandchildren when they were little because I just couldn't do it. But now I can do it, so I feel great about it. I think it's really good.
We'll also have our usual mix of different learning tips. We'll be looking at verbs and their tenses, how to write cheques, and we'll be talking about pronouncing and spelling TH words. When Maria and her family moved to County Meath, she reached a point where she knew she'd have to do something about getting back to learning if she wanted to find herself a job.
It really began, I think, when I was about 11 and I was in school in England. And I just always remember being in the classroom, and if I got something wrong, there was one particular teacher that she would just hit me on top of the head because of coming from Ireland. We said the word tree and fate. I had difficulty pronouncing the TH words. So she would hit me on top of the head constantly till I got the word three and faith. I left school when I was 15. I'd done my exams, what everybody done. I didn't get good grades, and I didn't really get good grades, but I just left school at 15 and just went into work. I went to work as a hairdresser then. Nobody, only my family knew. As they got older and I was trying to write letters to my mother and father, because we moved back then to Ireland, and I was trying to write letters to my mother and father, I would ask them to spell for me. Most of the times I drove them crazy and they'd run out the house and hide rather than have to keep, but they did it because they knew that I had to do it. I moved here to Beliver and I had a lot of time on my hands and I didn't know anybody, and I thought I'm going to have to do something with my life. And I wanted to go back to work, but I didn't have a clue where to go or how to start or what to do. And I just happened to be sitting in the doctor's one day and I saw an advertisement for literacy classes. So I took the phone number. I had it for quite some time. Tried a few times to ring it, but just didn't have the guts to do it. I just kept putting it off and putting it off. And then I just knew that if I wanted to get on and get work, that I would have to do something. I rang and the lady came on the phone and she arranged to meet with me and came over to the house. She sort of worked with me and came to what suited me, and I just found it's the best thing I've ever done in my life.
Maria talks a lot about things that have happened to her in her life. She talks about how she's raised a family and gone back to education. She uses a lot of action words to tell her story. These action words are called verbs. Let's look at examples of verbs in Maria's story. Maria lived in England when she was a child, but she now lives in Beliver, County Meath. In this sentence, we're using one verb in two forms: lived to talk about the past and lives to talk about the present. Usually verbs change when we're talking about actions that have happened in the past or actions that are happening in the present. Let's look at the past tenses in more detail. We can form the past simple form of verbs such as live, play and cook by adding d or ed to the end. So the following sentences are all in the past tense. Maria lived in England when she was a child. Her husband cooked a barbecue last week. Her grandchildren played in her garden yesterday. When we're describing actions taking place at the moment, we often add an S to the end of verbs. So the following sentences refer to the present. Maria lives in Ballivor now. She plays with her grandchildren when they come to visit. Her husband sometimes cooks dinner. We use different tenses every day. It comes automatically when we're speaking, but think about it the next time you're writing.
What did I say earlier about coming across the unexpected in this park? I wasn't planning on this sort of transport. Now, we heard there about using verbs and their tenses. Being able to use verbs and tenses will help you form a good foundation for improving your reading and writing. You'll be surprised at how much you already know. The trick is just keep adding to it, and I promise, the more you practice, the easier it'll get. And speaking of practice, to get the most out of each program, what you should really do is get a copy of the new Read Write Now workbook. It's free. To get your free copy, just call free phone 1800 20 20 65. The lines are open now. Ian's back with us this week, and he's talking about something you should find interesting and which should get you thinking.
Have you ever thought about how people you know have different types of skills and mental abilities? A close friend of mine wasn't very good at school, yet at the age of 14 he fixed the postman's van when it broke down in the farmyard. He was really good at solving practical mechanical problems of a type that I'm hopeless at. Yet this ability wasn't recognised in school, where he was assessed mainly through reading and writing, and he wasn't very good at them. Maria, the learner you saw earlier in the programme, had a tough time in school, and she didn't develop her literacy skills until later in life. Instead, she trained as a hairdresser and learned the skills needed for that type of work. You see, different parts of the brain control different kinds of skills, and some people are stronger at some things than others. Just because you don't happen to do well in school doesn't mean you're not intelligent. You have to identify what your brain is good at and build on that. Let's try a couple of exercises to see what I'm getting at. So here we are in Woody's. I want to get from this furniture display to the paint section. Now I know this store, and I know if I go first left and second right, I'll get there. I've arrived at the paint section. How did I get here? I followed a mental map controlled by a special part of my brain here on the right side. It helps me imagine where I am and is called spatial thinking. Now you test this part of your brain. Close your eyes and picture yourself walking from your front doorstep to the nearest shop. Mentally make that walk. Do you turn left or right? Is there a road you have to cross? How far down the road do you have to walk? How did you do? Did you find that easy or hard? Everyone's different in how good they are at this kind of thinking. Now let's try out a different part of the brain. I want to tile my bathroom, and I really like this colour. 25 tiles per box. I took some measurements before I came out. Need to use a bit of logic on this one.
I wonder how Ian's going to get on with that. Anyway, it's true, we all have some things we're particularly good at, and just because your talents can't be measured through exams or haven't come out in school doesn't make them any less important. The craft courtyard here is another interesting discovery that I've made. The craftspeople working out of the courtyard have all got very different talents indeed. The one thing they have in common though is the fact that they're able to use their different intelligence and talents to make a living. Now, Maria didn't do particularly well in school, but that doesn't mean she hasn't discovered her own special abilities. Maria has a particular talent for interior design, but she tended to be cautious applying her colour schemes at home. That is, until recently, when she decided to be more adventurous with her living room.
Like I'd look at something and I'd love it, but I'd always I'd hold back a little bit. I was never think, yeah, that's it, I'm going to go for it. I'd always have to rethink everything first, but this time I thought, yes, I'm definitely going for it. My family thought I was mad. They thought I was a crazy woman. They told me to get it off the walls. It looked like somebody had been slaughtered in the house. And even Ron had a bit of a problem putting it on the wall. But I said to them, just hold on until I get all my accessories in, and when it's all put together, you'll see that it'll be nice. I was always interested in interior designs, but because of my spelling, I knew I wouldn't be able to do it because there's a lot of qualifications needed for it. Before I went back to education, the most difficult things I found was filling in checks and forms. If I ever was given a form to fill in, I would just panic, completely panic. And checks, I would just never use checkbook, ever. I would either pay cash or Ron, my husband, would write the checks for me. Hello.
How are you?
I'll take these two, please. I'd bring home the forms and I'd get them filled in, or I'd make up some sort of a story, like I'd left my glasses behind me.
Thank you.
We're going to a Bible meeting now. It's a book group up in Cluny. Just after we got married and we had the children, I became a Jehovah's Witness, studied the Bible, and that helped me with my reading because I couldn't read, I couldn't understand the Bible. But the lady who lived next door to me, she was a Jehovah's Witness, and she used to come in, she would sit with me for hours just till I read maybe 4 lines until I learned how to read. But as the years have gone by, I've got very good at my reading and I'm very confident doing it now.
Well, I met Maria in Dublin in 1967, and the following year we got married. Within 10, 11 months, our first child was born, Teresa, and they sent us a package called the Bounty Book or something. And I remember Maria sitting up and saying to me, "What's that word? What's that word?" And I couldn't figure out why she couldn't seem to understand the simplest of words. So in the end then, I got into the habit of reading the book to her, how to bring a baby up. So that's how I first noticed that she had a problem reading.
It says, trust in Jehovah and do good, reside in the earth and deal with faithfulness.
For simple things, from the time we got married, then I started taking full control. I would write to companies, rent and all those things, and Maria had no responsibility whatsoever.
Very good, thank you.
It can be frustrating because you have to do everything yourself. You're on your own, sometimes even with the simplest of things. So that's where Maria now steps in. She decided now to take hold of her life, as it were, and turn herself completely around. The progress that she's made in the last couple of years, it's like a totally different person altogether.
Okay, so these are the comments.
Maria, our learner, needed to buy some things for her house when she redecorated. Sometimes it's a good idea to write a cheque so that you don't have to carry a large amount of cash. A cheque is a written request from you to your bank to pay someone an agreed amount of money from your account. If you have a current account in a bank, you probably have a chequebook. Every cheque in your chequebook has your name and your account number printed on it. Maria's name is printed on the cheque. Let's pretend her account number is 353-220-95. Each cheque also has its own number. No 2 cheques can have the same number. To use a cheque, you'll need to fill in 4 parts: the name of the person or company you want to pay, the amount to be paid in numbers and in words, the date, and finally, your signature. In this case, Maria's writing a cheque to the Meath Furnishing Company for €33. On a cheque, you'll need to write down the amount to be paid in both words and in numbers. Here we see the amount, €33, written in numbers, 33, and in words. This is to make sure that nobody tries to take more money out of your account by adding on an extra 0, for example. Some people write the word only at the end to make sure that this is all that's paid. Maria has a stub left in her chequebook for her to note how much she's paid, to whom, and when.